Speaking of app development and app-related news, how about this article? Which apps are most likely to be sharing your personal data and how much? Now, you want to take any guesses before we scroll down? Did you read this article?
No, I didn't.
Don't take any guesses. The number one app. Can you name the number one app that's sharing the most personal data from you if you use it?
Say Facebook?
You're close. It's Instagram.
Instagram.
And it's Instagram by a lot. Number two is actually Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Some might be surprised to find out that
Is
it's
WhatsApp
actually
number 3?
It's actually Instagram that's more leaky than Facebook. Like, that's kind of surprising. You would think.
Yeah.
But Instagram is just this shopping machine. It's just, if you've ever had this experience, I mean, obviously these companies, they trade data, and you've had this experience where you were Googling a product and then you're scrolling Instagram. It's like, oh,
Right.
there's that product.
It's very specific.
Yep.
It's
And
actually kind of scary.
yeah, and if you're thinking about, okay, what does the data set look like that Google has? Well, okay, that's one thing. You look in there and you see it can map your age and this and that and all the rest of it. But then you think, oh, what if all these companies pool that data together? Now, how comprehensive is that picture of myself that they have?
Yeah.
And so this matters to advertisers. It matters to sellers of goods. They want to know as much about Willie Do as possible, so they hit you at the right time, the right moment with the right thing.
And it works.
And it works. And then you end up pulling the trigger and buying things.
Oh, man.
So 52% of all apps that they studied in this particular test, by the way, the website peakcloud.com, 52% of apps in this were sharing data with third parties as a whole. There's a nice little chart, and you're probably going to have to zoom into it, though, that showcases what exactly is being shared and how much. So percentage of personal data collected that is shared on Instagram with third parties is 79% of data. This includes purchases, location, contact info, contacts, user content, search history, browsing history, identifiers, usage data, diagnostics, financial info. That is a laundry list right there. There's a few things in there. Facebook coming in at number 2 is 57% of personal data collected is shared with third parties. And it's a similar list to Instagram minus search history, browsing history, which is an interesting one because I feel like that's where Instagram really gets you is when it's integrating your browsing history into your advertising over there. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn comes in at number 3. How about Uber Eats at number 4?
Yeah,
Easy,
that's
Uber
really
Eats.
Invasive.
Just trying to catch a meal over here. In the case of Uber Eats, you have purchases, location, contact info, search history. Search history, identifiers, usage data, and other data, which who knows. Moving down the list, there's YouTube Music, eBay comes in at number 10. Scroll a little bit further. TikTok is actually in number 12. Reddit, number 15. Snapchat looks to be the lowest of the social media companies at 17. Not sharing too much of your data. CNN, Hulu, Roku. Now, obviously, they did not. Twitter, I take that back. Twitter's all the way down at number 28 as far as social media is concerned. They're sharing very little of your data with third parties. So this is just something to keep in mind. Privacy is increasingly this topic of conversation. Increasingly, people are becoming aware of how valuable their data is. DoorDash, shout out DoorDash, all the way down at number 49, sponsored his show. It's interesting to know. How can DoorDash basically, let's see, it's only one icon. The only piece of information is identifiers. So it's a lot less than something like Uber Eats. I don't know how Uber Eats makes the case that they need to share your purchases with third parties, right? Potential advertisers. There's so many ways to monetize this stuff. Mm-hmm. But you take an app like Instagram, they're sharing 79% of your data collected, and then scroll down to Twitter in the 28th spot. It's down it's 20% that they're able to get away with. And I mean, companies like Walmart are down at 14%. So there are ways to do this. It all depends how much it matters to you. You are valuable, Willie Do. Your data is valuable, and these companies are figuring out ways. Now, I just want to put one other thing out there because this sounds very doom and gloom. There is an argument around the sharing of this data and how it potentially enhances your internet experience. And let me just paint the picture. Let me just make the case. You're on Instagram Instagram is talking to Google, let's say. They're just sharing information back and forth, search history, browsing history. All of a sudden, you get this quick video in your feed, which is relevant to you, and it's a product you've been researching. Now, some people think this is so creepy. Don't do this to me. I don't want this. But you have to think about what will be in its place. You can't just think about it in isolation like it's either that or nothing. No, Instagram is not going to exist as a service with nothing. That's just not reasonable. So it's kind of like how it was watching TV when you were a kid and getting stuck with some ad that's completely irrelevant to you.
Yeah.
And actually harmful to your experience. So this is not cut and dry. It is not black and white. It is very difficult to figure out dynamic systems that are capable of, now they could go more basic. They could make it very demographic driven, but that comes with its own consequences in assuming that you might like something. It's very complicated. We all know the position that many big tech companies have taken. We saw Tim Cook give a whole speech on why privacy is number one. At a certain point, you as a customer, you have to decide which services are worth it and whether or not the transaction is a worthwhile one to you, and actually analyze the ads that you're seeing, because the internet, without being subsidized by ads, is not the internet that you know, right? All these free services. If YouTube didn't have ads, there is no YouTube, not the one that you know. If certainly you can't, it's very difficult to figure out, do you force everybody to pay? Like, let's say you get rid of all that and Instagram becomes a paid service. Who's prepared to pay for Instagram?
Right.
Is that better? I mean, maybe for some people. Maybe options are the best. Well, that's where YouTube does it right. The premium subscription, right? You just hit the premium subscription, you get YouTube Music, YouTube, and no ads. And that's what I use. And you still pay your creators, your favorite creators, just by watching them. They get a percentage of that thing. That's a nice, clean exchange. But that's not going to be possible for everyone to afford that. And so you have these different tiers. Maybe Instagram, Facebook, and others should do the same. You want to opt out of this variety of things? Okay, here's what we were generating as far as revenue.
Yeah.
I think they know, though, that a lot of people would quit if that were the case.
Yeah, they probably have the data.
No, but what I mean to say is it kind of makes sense to me, YouTube Premium, Instagram Premium, or Twitter Premium, or what they were calling like super follows. It's harder for me to from a value perspective, like what I personally get out of YouTube versus those other platforms. There's something about how long is the content, how much work went into it. Like, I'm more willing to watch more ads, let's say, or to be inclined to pay money for a different type of content. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, yeah.
I mean, same like people pay for Netflix, but it's not 7-second clips that they're swiping through. Like, who cares?
Right.
It's very, there's a lot of intent for the viewer in those circumstances. So anyway, it's up to you, but go check out the chart. It's interesting nonetheless.